Hello, football fans, and welcome to another episode of Hurdle the Line. I'm here with Karl, David, Oli, and Tom, and I'm Chapman, hosting tonight for our comrade Sam, who's unable to make it. Gentlemen, how are we? Everybody recovered from draft weekend?
Yep, yep,
Weekend?
all good. Had a wedding as well,
Yeah,
so extra bit of recovery to do. So
that's nice. Hopefully, your team didn't make you guys not sleep and stay up hours going through Twitter and other YouTube videos like mine did. I have to say before we get started, our mock draft that we did last week or 2 weeks ago didn't go so hot, did it?
Yeah, it went
Yeah.
atrocious.
Yeah.
I mean, if we was a GM of any NFL team, we would have been fired for that.
But we do have to give DJ a shout out because we did do it with just in the group who we all thought the top five picks were going to be regardless after our mock draft, and DJ hit it 5 for 5. So way to
well
go!
done,
He's going to
DJ.
be picking the lottery He's going
Yeah.
to
Signing
be
for
picking our
ESPN
lottery
soon.
numbers.
Yep, big
Yeah,
winners
at the
this
end of the
week.
show, we give out some lottery numbers.
Yep.
And with that said, we can move right into our new segment, Break the Huddle. DJ, take it for us.
Yep, cheers, Chapman. So, some breaking news in the huddle from the NFL side of things. So, as we all know, the NFL draft hit on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, and we'll be talking into the show in regards to the selections that were picked. On that note, Detroit shattered the draft attendance record. I think they managed to hit 775,000 fans that attended over the 3 day weekend, which I think Kansas last year was just over 300. So it's really gained a lot of attendance and fans that are actually going to the draft live itself. Moving on to some contract extensions that's happened in the last couple of days. Taylor Swift's boyfriend has earned a 2 year extension, so that takes him now to 2027. That also tacks up on a 34.25 million for the next 2 years as well on his old deal. Tom, I know this was just kind of like breaking news. Is that something that you're hoping to happen? I know Patrick
Oh
actually
yeah,
tweeted about it today.
definitely. Yeah, I mean, it made my day brighter, so I can't say more than that. But yeah, I think he finally gets the kind of payday that he deserves as well. You know, he's been underpaid for a long time, especially for a tight end position and for what he does within the scheme in Kansas City. So to get his due for at least these last couple of years, wholly deserved, and just want to see him catching passes from Patrick Mahomes. So yeah,
I guess it puts
love
to
to
bed
see it.
the all the rumours about him retiring next year or looking to retire. I mean, yeah,
Yeah.
you could fairly say that he's going to go on for another year, and then they'll probably see on the second year. But it definitely looks like by signing this deal, he's definitely going to be doing another 2 years.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And then on top of that, you know, Andy Reid signing a new contract extension through 2029 as well.
True.
So,
Yeah.
you know, Kansas City, it's keeping them all the key pieces together to you know, continue the legacy that they're building there. So yeah, couldn't be happier really.
Cool, mate. Moving on. This one's probably best for myself and Karl. So we got Christian Balmore. He signed a 4 year deal. It's 92 million with 41.8 million guaranteed. So the defensive tackle signs on an extra 4 years. Karl, what do you kind of make of this? Because I think it's good that we keep our in-house players straight after the draft. I think that we're now going to look at maybe tying up a couple more guys as well. But this just looks like a win-win situation. I don't think the contract's that bad either. I know the amount looks massive, but if you kind of look how it's divided in the next four, it ain't that bad.
No, it's not that bad at all. As you said, DJ, it's a win-win situation. All throughout free agency, all we did was re-sign players that actually wanted to stay in New England. Obviously, the likes of Trent Brown and that they all got kicked to the curb. But Christian Barmore, I think, was one of the cornerstones on that defensive line. We had to re-sign desperately. The last 2 years, he has simply balled out, along with defensive tackle Davin Godchu as well, as a good two-way partnership. And the fact he's got his bag is absolutely tremendous for him. Let's see who else we can continue to re-sign, because we still got a fair bit of cap space to go.
Yeah.
But Barmore was a key piece in that defense last year, who literally did so well. Stuff in the run is his speciality, and he's a human wrecking ball, absolute human wrecking ball.
Yeah. There's definitely a decent sign in there. Moving on, so we've got 2 Lions players. Fletch will probably be happy about this one. So we've got, I don't know if this is the correct way to say it, Sewell, defensive line, and St. Brown. So they both signed extensions. So Brown's deal includes a 77 million guaranteed money. The maximum potential value of that deal is 120 million. Whilst Swell's deal is 112 million with 85 guaranteed. Again, the Lions locking up with the two important pieces to the puzzle there on their offense. Then there's another piece of news. So Reggie Bush had his Heisman trophy reinstated after his voluntary gave it up in 2010. Now, I'm going to shout it out there. I do not have any information on reason why he did this. So if someone wants to shout out, then
I can jump in. Yeah. So after, I can't remember what year it was, but yeah. So basically, it was found that his parents had been given, I believe it was an apartment, or as you guys like to say, a flat, during the seasons which he played for USC, so that they were able to kind of go and be closer to Reggie and watch the games and whatnot. And this is seen as an unfair advantage that he would have had, basically, which obviously we know, just because he's seeing his parents during the week, or his parents can go to the games, that doesn't make them any better on Saturdays when he's playing. I can just say, like, that season that Reggie Bush had as a running back in the modern era of football, really at the beginning of modern, was insane. It's right up there with the Vince Young year, the Cam Newton year, and I would even say the Joe Burrow. And it harkened back to like the days of Herschel Walker just running over people. But he was so good. He was so good, and he would obviously get drafted by the Saints, and he'd win a Super Bowl with them. But it's right that he got his trophy back. As somebody who really dislikes other teams in college football, you could not root for Reggie that year. And also remembering that Matt Leinart was on that team too, who won a Heisman too the year before. It was just such a stacked team. There's a great documentary, I believe, on that team. If you can go watch it somewhere, but anyway, you should definitely, if you've never watched any highlights of those USC the last days of Pete Carroll and USC, you should definitely go do it. Sorry, a little off topic.
Cool, nice one, Chapman. And finally, just to close the break in the huddle news, is we had 2 more international signings happened. One was over the draft. So former rugby union player Travis Clayton, he was selected by the Buffalo Bills. That was for a 7th round pick. He's a British player for rugby union. And then we've got an Irish kicker that signed for the Giants. He was a undrafted player that was called Jude McTammy. I think that's correct. And that's kind of closes the breaking news for the huddle today.
Thank you so much, Ed. All right. Well, this episode is just going to be mostly talking about the draft, what we liked, what we didn't like, how our teams did, how our teams didn't do, and then any other observations we have. We're going to kind of freeform it here, but I think we're going to try to start with the positives here. And guys, if you want to just jump in, like if there was something your team did that you're really happy about, let us know. If there was something another team did, let us know. I'm actually going to start because we have 2 Patriots fans here, and going to throw something out. I thought the Drake May pick was great. I think it's good that they stayed at 3, did the responsible thing, took a quarterback. My hope is that they let him sit for at least most of the year this year because it's just where that team is, and they're going to build from there. And I thought, I'm sure there were offers probably to get up in that third spot, but I want to know how David and Karl feeling about the Pats picking May.
Yeah, Drake May has been... Look, the pick itself was self-explanatory, okay? Because it was either we're going to get Jaden Daniels or you're going to get Drake May. It was going to be one of those two picks either way. It's not... It's not groundbreaking news. We knew it was going to happen one or the other. The fact that we got Drake May, his footwork needs a bit more polishing, and his reading defenses needs a little bit more work to it. But the upside of this kid is absolutely fantastic. If you watched him at North Carolina, he was playing behind one of the worst offensive lines in college football, and his best receiver was Tez Walker, who was basically a round 4 pick. There's not a lot to throw to in that stance. He's going to come to New England where we're trying to rebuild the offensive line and rebuild the receiver core. Moving into the receivers of the likes of Jalen Polk. Now, obviously, I didn't have him on my mock draft at all. I don't think no one had him on a mock draft at all because I just feel like that sounded to me like a bit of a safe pick, and it was a safe pick to a certain extent. But if he has the upside we can say he is, his comparison is probably someone like Amari Cooper. If that is his ceiling, shall we say. And then the other receiver, Javon Baker. I was screaming for this guy in the fourth round. I was like, please, take him. And we finally got a guy on who can actually split the field, very good at his route running. And the best thing about this all is during his social media comments, shall we say, one of the main things he did say was, we are bringing the winning mentality back to New England. That is the sort of player who I want on my team. That's the sort of player I can get behind. Yaheem Bell, we took it in round 7. That to me was great value, considering we've already got like 3 tight ends on the roster already with Hunter Henry, Austin Hooper, and Wilcox, who we signed just before the draft. But Jaheim Bell's quite undersized, got a good set of wheels on him. Very good after the catch. We'll see what we'll do. We'll probably turn him to sort of like an H-back type of player. And yeah, tackle position we needed with Kalen Wallace. Really, really good. He played predominantly right tackle at Penn State, but apparently we're going to move him to left tackle. We'll see how that pans out because I'm a little bit unsure about it. And then we took a guard, Layden Robinson out of Texas A&M. Now, there's only 2 reasons why I can think we took a guard. Cole Strange's days are numbered. And the second one is the new regime obviously hated Belichick taking Cole Strange 2 years ago in round 1. That could be my only reasons why they wouldn't move City So out of position. So I think Cole Strange's days is outnumbered. But regarding, and we, hang on a second, we did take a corner. I can't remember who his name is now. DJ, can you help me out here?
Not Hall, something like that. Call or something like that.
It was round 5, wasn't it?
Yeah.
No, it was round.
I was just glad that we was able to. You could see that we need Dial. That was it. We could see that we needed
Dial, yeah,
offense, and that was our main focus. And I'm glad that we did do that because you could see that it was a new era. Belichick wasn't there, and our main focus was just trying to really get weapons in and trying to beef up that offense that we solely needed last year, which we didn't have. So hopefully we can, like I say, I don't think May should be starting day 1, and I don't want him to. I'd rather sit him half a season if the season's going to like not a winning season, then yeah, I don't mind putting him in a couple of games here and there, but definitely sitting behind Brissett I'm very surprised that we did go for that quarterback in Tennessee, Milton, because that guy's got an arm on him. But apart from that, that's kind of like
everything else. But everything else about Joe Milton is wrong.
Third string tight end. I think he'll be.
That's what I thought. I thought they could potentially put him as tight end.
You just switching to tight end.
Never played tight end
before.
Switch him. Yeah,
but you've only been able to switch that player to a receiver or a tight end position if they've actually played that position in high school or in college. Joe Milton hasn't played either of those positions.
What about
Travis Kelce though?
That Saints guy as well.
He played quarterback at high school, and then
we made Felipe Franks the tight end. You don't have to have played it. Felipe Franks came on. He never.
Yeah, either way, it was a seventh. That's what I mean. It's a seventh round pick, so even if it fails, it doesn't matter. Exactly. See if he can play tight end. If not, because he ain't playing GB.
Who's the Saints guy?
Yeah, but as
Spencer Rattler.
The Saints guy. He's a quarterback.
Oh yeah, Taysom
Hill.
Yeah, we could use him in a Taysom Hill type of role, but I don't think we'll do it that way.
I think he'll be lucky to make the practice squad. Personally.
Yeah.
Well, as I said, his feet are stuck in the mud. His mechanics are not very good, but he's like a golfer that only knows how to drive the ball. Doesn't know how to wedge it. Doesn't know how to putt it, but to drive it all the way two thirds down the golfing course, yeah. He's got an arm on him, and there was a video, I think, Pro Football Talk NBC, Pro Day. He actually launched an orange from the back end of an end zone all the way down to the other end of the end zone, and not only did he cover the 100 yards, the orange smacked straight into the concrete wall, literally destroyed the orange. So that's how much of an arm. But here's the thing: if you want him to throw 80 yards, he will throw 80 yards. If you want Joe Milton to throw for 5 yards, he'll still throw for 80 yards. So,
well, unless something catastrophic happens, I don't think Joe Milton's going to be making any starts for the Patriots. So, thanks, guys. Moving on, Oli, I know you guys didn't have a first round pick, but how did you feel your Browns did with the draft capital they had?
Yeah, I think they did all right. It was a bit of a boring draft to some because, I mean, it's the first time in, I think, 4 years that we haven't made any trades during the draft. So, just trying to sit in there and waiting for those picks and trying to sit in at them picks got a little bit, boring as the night went on. But no, I think overall, it's what can you do? Like I said, going into the draft, they're not really drafting to look for players for this year, or if if someone failed to them, then they could have gotten an impact starter. But it's more just trying to look into the future, trying to just filling in some depth roles. I think Michael Hall was a great pickup. I mean, I don't think he could have gone personally to a better team than the Browns just because of Jim Schwartz's scheme and how he'll use him. He's not going to be used on first and second down, which obviously was a lot of concerns about him going into the draft, was that he's a bit light and won't be a very good run stopper. But at the Browns, he has kind of the luxury of being able to just come in on passing downs and use his actual strengths in the passing game. Zach Zinter as well. Obviously, he's from Michigan, which a lot of Browns fans don't really. There is actual Browns fans not liking the pick because he's from Michigan, which is a bit silly. Like I understand college.
Oh, get out your feelings. Get out of your feelings.
I understand college rivalries, but that's just come on. Like he's a good player. I think he probably would have gone higher if he didn't break his leg against the Buckeyes in the season just gone. So I think that's also a good pickup. I said before they need offensive line depth, so get a guard in there. That's someone that you could hopefully look to replace either Batonio or Teller in the next couple of years. Jamari Thrash in the 5th round. I mean, what can you really say about it? Hopefully he can make it as the 4th, 5th receiver. He does have some traits that I like. I mean, he didn't run too fast at the combine, but when you look at the tape, he does have pretty good long speed, and he does create quite a lot of separation, and his separation numbers were some of the best in the class. So not a bad pickup, and yeah, like I said, overall it wasn't too exciting, but you filled some potential depth roles, and in the end of the day, when you've only got 6 picks and you're not picking until 54, what else can you really do in that situation? So overall, yeah, I think they did all right.
Was there anybody, Oli? I know you've done a lot of tape on the players coming into the draft. Were there anybody that were not Browns that you were really happy? Well, not happy. Were there any good fits that you saw? Or were there any teams that stuck out to you in terms of winners or who did really well in the draft?
Unfortunately, I really like what the Steelers did. They got two of my favourite offensive linemen in Faltanu and McCormick. Two guys. Well, the Browns were never getting Faltanu, but McCormick was someone that I really wanted on the Browns. Picking up Roman Wilson as well, and just overall, I mean, they seem to always draft well. It's just when you have a well-run organisation and a winning culture, you have the luxury to, sit back and essentially go best player available, or, whatever it is at that position. But Steelers, I'd probably say up there. Washington, I personally would have picked May over Jalen Daniels, but when you look at what they've done in terms of, I think they've improved the roster. I'm not too 100% on the Rice pick, but other than that, I think they did pretty well. And then I'd probably say round that off with the Eagles. Again, like the Steelers, they seem to always just draft well, and they always seem to get lucky and have those players forward as well. I mean, Quinion Mitchell at 22, I think, was a shock to everyone. I think they're probably three teams that stuck out the most to me. I suppose the Bears, but that's obviously a given when you got two top 10 picks. I mean, it's quite and that good of a talent pool in the draft this year. It's quite hard not to have a good draft out of that. So they're probably the teams that I'd say did the best in my opinion.
Thanks, Ollie. Tom, did you get that wide receiver you wanted?
I did.
How did the Chiefs do? Tell us about the Chiefs draft.
So they traded up in the first round as well, up to pick 28 from 32 with the Bills, which I still don't understand why the Bills actually do deals with the Chiefs, because it never works out well for them. Getting Xavier Worthy, I think was a massive. I was very happy with that. A guy that just brings that speed. And the funny thing is, when I was watching the draft coverage, his comp was Hollywood Brown, and now we have both of them on the same team. So, excited to see what he can do in the offense. I really like the pickup of Kingsley.
Suamataia, I think is the correct way of saying it. Yeah. I tried to pronounce that name quite a few times through the whole process, and I think I've got the.
Can you say it 4 times fast?
100% not.
Yeah, but I think he was a really good pickup, especially as like a project pick as well. I think me and Ollie talked about him previously. Just he would probably need a year to like bed into the actual build the confidence to start at left tackle and that sort of thing. But I think he's a really good pickup for the Chiefs. And I was also really happy with the DB pick, Jalen Hicks. Just a ball hawk, really. Safety. I think he had 5 interceptions last year, so I think he was a great value pick as well. So yeah, I was really happy with what the Chiefs did. For sure. But I agree with Ollie with the Eagles. I think getting Cooper DeJean and Quinion Mitchell to supplement a defensive back room that was pretty terrible last year. The Eagles always just cook in the draft, and they continue to do so. So yeah.
That's great. Anybody else have any? Karl and DJ, I'm sorry, I kind of cut you guys off with the Patriots. Were there any other teams or any winners that you guys had in terms of?
I'll go as far as this. I'll say the winner I will probably say was, I think in our mock draft most of us had like Malik Neighbors going to the Chargers, I believe it was.
Yeah.
And we just spoke backstage regarding of this is Jim Harbaugh, what's he going to prioritize more than anything else? He'll prioritize the running games. What does that mean? He wants big offensive linemen. And we should have seen this coming. It's staring at us in the face. And the fact that the Chargers ended up taking Joe Alt, that is absolutely brilliant. And then with their second round pick, they go and take probably the receiver that I wanted, Ladd McConkey. So now they add Ladd McConkey with Joe Alt to that. Justin Herbert, we're going to have a fantasy show in the next couple of weeks or so. I tell you what, Justin Herbert is going to absolutely feast this coming season. Sorry, Tom, I know you're not going to like this, okay? But the Bolts are coming after the Chiefs this season, just to clarify. But the other thing, the only thing that surprised me was I certainly didn't have Ricky Purcell on my bingo card going in round 1. That was a shocker for me, but the 49ers ended up taking him. And this only raised the question even more, because then Brandon Ayuk could be traded. Deebo Samuel was apparently in rumors of being traded as well. And the Pats were very, very heavily linked to it, but it just seemed to have just died off, and we took our pick in the second round anyway, and then it all just... I don't know if a trade could happen for a second round pick for next year maybe, but the Ricky Purcell one was a bit of a... That was a shocker. I wasn't expecting him to be in the first round at all. I expected to be mid to late second round at best I had for him, but the 49ers obviously saw something in him that that none of us else do. And if the 49ers are very good at one thing, it is drafting receivers that can ball out. You have to look at
Brandon, it's great.
Brandon Ayuk and Deebo Samuel. So,
well, I mean, I think that was the theme in the draft. Obviously, there was 14 offensive players taken consecutively, which is the most in the modern draft era. There were 6 quarterbacks taken in the first round, which was odd after Nix was at 12. You didn't have another quarterback go against until the 5th round, which was Spencer Rattler to the Aints. And which I think was like 150 picks between that or something like that. It's
yeah,
crazy.
it's 150th. I think it's like 150th pick, I think, or something.
So it was definitely, I think, the value in terms of where the league saw the value in this draft. It was all offense, especially early on. So in these receivers, so it was really interesting. I think I thought the Lions had an interesting draft. And I know they, last year it was interesting how, they were sort of, a lot of people were scratching their heads after their first draft picks, and I think they didn't care. And I think they played so well this year, and they were shown their way is right. I really like them getting Arnold, going up and getting a cornerback. But then again, double dipping in the cornerbacks, then also getting Rickshaw. Rickshaw? Is it Rickshaw? Or is it Rickshaw? Sorry. From Missouri. So that's really exciting for them. They did do some trades in order to get some of these players. But overall, I think, again, they had a really a good draft for already a pretty solid team. And I got to say, as a team that restarted their clock 3 years ago, about the same time that Detroit did, they've really built this thing really well and right. So, anybody else have any more superlatives they'd like to give out?
I think obviously Tom, he's just dropped out quickly.
Yeah.
He spoke about obviously the trade that the Bills made to the Chiefs. Okay, so I'm just going to give you a little bit more of a deep dive into what actually happened in this trade, because if you actually read the headlines, it might be, so he traded to the Chiefs, it can't be that bad. You look in between the details and it's absolutely ridiculous. So obviously they traded down with the Chiefs' selection. Chiefs took Xavier Worthy, broke the NFL record for the 40-yard dash, 4.21 seconds. So the Bills end up with the 32nd pick, and then they decided to trade down to the 33rd pick. They actually swap picks with the Panthers, and the Panthers end up taking Xavier Legette at 32. Bills ended up taking Keon Coleman, or as I like to put it, the 2.0 version of N'Keal Harry, at 33. But the thing is, they've missed out, because in round 1, for your pick, you get a 5th-year option. In round 2 and up and back, you do not. So basically, personally, I think it was a disastrous string of decisions. It was made by Buffalo. They acquired a few more mid-round picks to use in the weekend. It's never a bad idea, but in order to acquire those picks, you passed on 2 wide receivers, gifted your biggest rival one of those wide receivers, and you lost the ability to exercise a 5th-year option. Congratulations, Buffalo Bills. You simply outplayed yourself.
I disagree quite a bit. I agree with the fifth. I agree with the 5th-year option point. That does play a big factor. I do. I concede to that. But I mean, yes, it could have gone worse if the 2 players, the receivers that went before him in terms of the Chiefs and the thing, were personally, in my opinion, better than Keon Coleman, which I don't think they are. I I don't really rate Xavier Worthy as much as other people. You look at the last person that everyone got hyped about, that because he broke the combine record for the 40, John Ross, did absolutely nothing. I'm not saying he's going to be John Ross, but I think the hype about the 40 is not something that I kind of buy into. And I think if he didn't break the record, if he ran a 4.3, he'd have been a second, third rounder, in my opinion. So when you manage to trade back, get multiple picks that they obviously use throughout the weekend, and get, in my opinion, a receiver that I'm not saying he's better, but I don't think he's worse, if that makes sense, than Xavier Legette or obviously Xavier Worthy. So yeah, I do personally have to disagree with you on that one.
A question: what's the number one trait the Chiefs always look for?
Speed, but he's 170 pounds,
exactly.
And so is Hollywood Brown. So now you've got two 170 pound receivers that can't get open in the short to intermediate. That their trait is going long. Which, yes, I'm not saying Patrick Mahomes isn't going to be able to exploit. He's Patrick Mahomes. You know what I mean? If you can get open down the field, he'll get you the ball. But I personally don't think that he's as good of a receiver. Obviously, he might end up being, and I can come back to this and say that I was wrong. But at this very moment, when you can get the assets that they got for trading back and get a receiver that I think they could have took at their initial position anyway, and I wouldn't have been disappointed with, I see that. I don't see that as a disaster. I see that as a positive.
And I would just say this: the only thing I would jump in here is that the Bills did need more draft capital in this draft, because they're semi rebuilding again, because they've lost some guys, and I think they needed as many bites at the apple as they could, because I think they're in a much different building place than the Chiefs are, in terms of just losing talent, and they lost a lot of talent, especially on that defensive side this year. So I think I can see why. I see your point, Karl, too. Gifting your biggest rival in the conference is not always a good thing, but if you are able to get some more mid round picks, for a team that needs to rebuild, you have to kind of weigh out. And I still think that I like Coleman too. I think they got a big physical receiver, which is what they needed. So we'll see. All right, guys. So those are going to be our positives. So should we move into moves we didn't like, or things that we thought were not good?
Shall we start with you, Chapman?
Yeah, let's talk about your new quarterback, shall we? Let's talk about your new quarterback.
I'd like to hear your views before I give my views.
Okay. Well, I'm still crystallizing things, but here's where I'm at. So I think you have to look at it two different ways. First, it's in a vacuum with the player. I think taking him at 8 is not problematic. I don't, especially if you need a quarterback. Again, the Falcons did not need, but if you need one, I had no problem with that. The process of the Falcons getting to that decision and how everything's kind of unwinded, I'm still very much trying to understand. And I'd like to say this: the Falcons were before Arthur Blank bought them, they were perennial losers along with the Saints. It was a joke of how the only two teams we could beat every year were the Saints, and there wasn't a lot of fun before that happened. Arthur Blank came in and has been a very good owner, has been while the Falcons have not always on the field, they've always been run well in terms of like being a respectable organization. The last 4 years, especially the last 2 years, I have no idea what's going on over there. And it's just like, it's very, very weird. And it really, it started with obviously the Deshaun Watson. I was trying to get him, moving on from Matt Ryan in a way that wasn't really respectful to him. Then Blank having to go out and say, oh, we're not going after Lamar Jackson, even though we all know Lamar Jackson wasn't leaving Baltimore, but he had to go out and say it, which made us a laughingstock. Then obviously, most recently bringing in Bill Belichick, then not hiring him, which put another target on our back. And then the ESPN article that came out like a week or two ago, which was clearly, I think, from the Falcons. I think it was Terry Fontenot being the leak in that one, which I did not think made us look good. basically none of them had Bill Belichick on their list of three, and the way that they were. Anyway, long story. It just feels like there's a lot of dysfunction, which I'm very surprised at in the Arthur Blank ownership. So, how did we get here? I have no idea. But where I'm at now is they have risked everything on PENIX working or not, and you can't judge. You can say a lot of things. We are giving up opportunity now in order to have a quarterback, but they're doing it a year early. That's really what I think it boils down to. I'm not really sure why you signed Kirk Cousins to $100 million guaranteed over 2 years if you were going to take PENIX at 8, which is what they said. I think really they fell in love with PENIX over. They weren't in love with PENIX in January, whether how they want to sell it. I think they fell in love with him over the last month or so, 2 months. He apparently was their number 2 QB on their draft board, and with Caleb Williams and then him. And again, if that's the case and he's there, you have to take. I get it, you have to take him because in the end, Kirk Cousins was only going to be here for max 3 years. That contract was so awful after the third year, and he's a 36-year-old quarterback. So you did have to have a succession plan. What happened after Matt Ryan was definitely playing into this. I don't know if this is what smart teams do. Don't think it is. But what I would say is if PENIX is a 10-year starter, regardless of how old he is now and all that, no one's going to care. And we'll go straight from Kirk Cousins to him and no one's going to care. It's a big if. And again, the odds are not in our favor for this because he was the 4th quarterback drafted. He has an injury history. He's a great player. He seems like an awesome dude. I've been doing a lot of, and I'm happy that he's the Falcons. I'm going to be rooting for him. I don't think there's going to be all this weirdness that everyone's saying. I mean, I think the only thing is I heard someone say, if I'm Jake Matthews, if I'm Grady Jarrett, if I'm some of these older guys that have been on the Falcons that want to win now, we could have done more to help us win now. But I don't think we were one first-round player away from the Super Bowl. Like, we weren't. And I think we should be a playoff team, and I think we should have been a playoff team before the draft anyway. So, I probably had my 5 minutes on this talk. I've got a lot of thoughts here, and so if you guys want to ask questions on top, I'll hear what you guys have to say. But I have to live with it now, so again, I'm going to have to sort of toe 2 lines here.
See, when I view it from an outsider, because Chapman, you've probably seen the positives and negatives from your fan base. If I'm seeing it from outside, okay, yeah, I get the point that you've signed Cousins for a two-year, 100 mil or whatever it was. My worry is, what if Kirk Cousins isn't 100%, say, I don't know, week 1, week 2, if he goes down injured, say, mid-season? PENIX, and I reckon you've got not a steal, but I reckon he'll do a really good job in stepping into being and competing with Cousins, because Cousins his age isn't on his favour. That's how I would view it, as from my point of view, from outside side.
See, for me,
he would be
sorry, Chapman, you don't, Chapman.
No,
I was just going to say, for me, to that point that David said, but then that just makes me think, well, then why sign Cousins? If you're going to sign...
Because I think they were sold. They were sold after the Cousins thing happened.
You see, I mean, don't get me wrong, they might have, come to the final decision in the last month, but I think if they've known that they were interested in PENIX, they've known longer than the last month. I heard that they didn't bring him in for a top 30 visit as well, whether that was part of the smoke screen of not wanting to let people know that they were interested in him.
Yeah, but they sent 8 guys out to Seattle
did they?
to work him out. Yeah, they sent 8 dudes out
Fair
there.
enough.
And also Raheem, there's reports Raheem, so the majority of our coaching staff is now from the Rams, and they loved him there too. Like, so it's not like, it seems like Raheem and Zach Robinson had really liked him and coming in. But then, I think they had a lot to do.
Yeah, with that again, that plays to my point. I just can't understand the logic of, like you've said, Chapman. It seems almost as if they didn't have a plan, and they've gone into this. Obviously, I mean, I know they both said in their press conference that that their plan was to improve the position. But if you're interested in a QB in 8, I just don't understand why on earth you sign a 36-year-old quarterback coming off an Achilles injury to that contract. I just don't. And people will use that argument to defend the pick. Like, that's what I've heard would be, oh well, you know, he might not be fit to go. So then you've got PENIX. Yeah, then why sign him? You know what I mean? Then why would you sign him in the first place? So that's the way I view it. But I mean, like you said, if in 2 years, if Kirk Cousins' deal, you know, that's when the out is. So they get out of the deal in 2 years. PENIX comes in, starts, plays well for you. Like you said, no one's gonna be remember the kind of almost, you know, the jokes about it that we've had during this weekend, and that will just be forgotten. But it's just, I mean, it's a monumental moment in the draft. You can just tell from everyone that's been involved in the draft for a long time how kind of surprising it was. So of course it's going to be talked about to what it's been talked about. But I just don't understand why you signed Kirk Cousins if you're interested in a quarterback, which I refuse to believe they wouldn't have known for at least since January before they signed him.
And what happens?
Could have this been a last minute deal as well? Because
if Cousins doesn't play well next year, and then he's not like, I don't know, he's throwing a bunch of picks and all this kind of stuff. That then are like the Atlanta fans going to be like, oh, we want PENIX. Like that's going to be crazy if that happens. Obviously, that's not guaranteed, but
because Cousins didn't even know about the selection, did he? Because normally you kind of tell your quarterback, look, we're thinking of taking someone here. He's going to be your backup. He had no idea of it. And then also Chapman, there was what was that video about that the GM had to explain something to the owner? Was it like something?
No,
he was doing,
the owner. That was just everybody. Like, it was so shocking to everyone, and like I think there was. I mean, again, I'm trying to be sort of as on the in the middle of this as I can. This is like they did something that was so unorthodox. Everybody universally panned it and jumped on it, and then a day later, everybody was like, "Oh, you had some time to think about it." Arthur Blank, our former GM Thomas Dimitroff gave an interview yesterday, I believe, and he was talking about like there's no way Arthur Blank didn't know what was happening before. Like this was part of the so that I think that whole video is just kind of overblown. Cousins was playing the best football of his career last year before he got hurt, and he is not somebody who's been hurt most of his career. So I don't think you pick a backup quarterback at 8 and waste the. So this is clearly about a succession plan. We messed up the Matt Ryan succession plan, and Arthur Blank in his tenure has only had one bad year of quarterbacking that was not Matt Ryan before the last 3 years. So we had, the 1 year with Matt Ryan and Arthur Smith at the end of his career, and then we had Marcus Mariota, Ritter, and Heineke. And he did 2 years of that, and he said, go get a quarterback. I think the very first show we kind of had talked about the very first show we did at HUDDLE Line, and I said something about, because I said the Falcons should take a quarterback at the second. We talked about something, and I was like, take more quarterbacks. Like, until you get it right, you just take more quarterbacks. This is a very expensive version of that. This is the most expensive version of that because of the draft assets and the money you're paying. But hopefully it works.
Can I just ask? Can I just ask a question to the panel here? Would you agree that every single draft there is always one dummy team that actually upsets the apple cart in the draft, especially in the first 10 picks? Can we all agree with that?
Your first 10 picks, I was going to say there's many teams that made that. Oh no, there's plenty.
So my take on this, okay, there's always one dummy who upsets the apple cart early in the draft. In this case, it was the Falcons. Much to the delight of every other team.
I don't agree with that. I don't agree with that way.
This has to feed. Yeah, but this pick feels like there's a feeding of a medal.
Karl, 3 other teams are wanting to trade up to get this guy. It's not. We just took the guy. It's not. He didn't go. He was going to go in the next 4 to 5 picks. So I don't really think it. I don't understand what everybody thinks was thrown off. Sorry.
Okay.
It was just a surprise.
Okay, but you don't think Arthur Blank had anything to do with this, no?
No, I think this was driven by Terry Fontenot and Raheem Morris. Completely.
Okay, that's fine. He was impressive in college, okay? But Cousins is coming off a torn Achilles, right? You could have, instead of gone for PENIX, you could have got a high-end receiver like a Romeo Odunze or a high mammoth tackle in Olu Fashionura, okay? And the reason why I say that is because Aaron Rodgers is coming off the same injury. And the first thing I said, if the Jets are the Jets, they'll take Brock Bowers because they want to give Aaron Rodgers a weapon. They didn't. They drafted a left tackle because they knew Rodgers is coming off that Achilles. They want to keep him on his. They want to keep him off his backside. And I
don't
kind
compare
of
us to the Jets, because you know what the Jets did last year? They put all their eggs in the Aaron Rodgers basket, and then they got to watch Zach Wilson for a year. If Kirk Cousins gets hurt on the first play next year, I'm watching a rookie quarterback who I like play. So you can take that and just go out. Also, we have one of the best offensive lines, so I'm not worried about that. We paid our guards last year, a year before anybody else was paying guards, because we were smart. So again, you can totally give us crap for not doing the right thing, which was we should have made our team in 2024 better. I will take that. That's what you're saying. Completely agree with that. But you're comparing us to the freaking New York Jets. No, thank you.
I'm not
sir.
comparing you to the Jets.
You
I'm
can
saying
take that AFC East and you can shove it up, because you're going to be the worst team in it next year. Just joking. Sorry.
I'm not comparing you to the Jets. I'm just thinking that you got the same problem with your quarterback as the same with Aaron Rodgers. He's coming off a torn Achilles. You want to keep your quarterback on their feet. You don't really want them getting pummeled into the dirt, especially if that Achilles is not 100%, 100% healed. That's basically all I'm saying, okay? But one true fact, okay? Cousins lives out his entire contract. Michael Penix's age when he first starts in the NFL is going to be 28 years old. The last quarterback to start at that sort of age.
Don't remind me.
Sorry, Ollie,
Don't
you know.
Steve Young.
Don't remind me.
You know who it is, Ollie.
Don't remind me. Let's not say the name on it. We've said it enough on this podcast, that name. Let's not keep saying it.
Well,
can I say something positive?
I'll keep reminding everybody. The only thing is we're only going to pay him for 2 years, because that third year already starts to get ridiculous. And it's only a $10 million dead cap hit. But what I will say is we've basically done what lots of other teams have done just 2 years earlier instead of just 1 year. And that's the dummy. And Karl, you're absolutely right. I think the shock for Falcons fans mostly was that we thought we were going to contend this year. Maybe not super, everyone needs to say you're going to try to win a Super Bowl, which is, they should say that. And you should be doing that. But we thought we were making this year's team better. Ultimately, too, I think it was a weak, based on all the offensive players, I think the defensive player value was not quite where the Falcons wanted it to, possibly. And so, they walked away. But again, we're not going to know for several years now whether this was a good decision or a bad decision. Should we talk about any other teams that screwed up?
Well, shouldn't we talk about how many quarterbacks were taken in the first 12 picks? 6 quarterbacks in the first 12 picks is there's a record. We've never had that many before.
Bo Nix somehow drafted in the first round.
Somehow drafted in the 12th overall by the Broncos.
Do you want to explain?
I did tell everyone. I said everyone from the very first episode, Bo Nix is going to the Denver Broncos. I said that for day one.
Well, congratulations, you have Bo Nix.
Yes, I got.
Oh my god!
I mean, the Vikings as a team that, just to bring the nerd out of me, a lot of they're getting kind of slandered for their draft, just in terms of the value they gave up in all the trades that they made. Obviously, their GM Twezi being a former Browns front office member, there was a lot of quite funny memes about he doesn't belong to us, he's not one of us, kind of things, because of all the trades that he was doing that obviously our front office would haven't really done, because they're a bit more analytically approached than some other teams. So I just had to say that, obviously, to be the nerd in me, to bring them out as a team that's I don't think they did, personally, I don't think they did bad. I think they got some good players. Dallas Turner at 17's a steal, you could probably say. But just in terms of they gave up a lot of value for the next couple of years for this draft. So you could, I suppose, call them.
What did they give up for that?
They just
2 seconds.
Yeah, quite a lot seconds, and then they obviously made another 2 trades throughout the draft where they gave even more future picks. That obviously I don't know, I can't remember the name, but the trade chart value where you weigh up all the picks versus that, and the Jimmy Johnson the Jimmy Johnson one, and they lost in every trade that they made in that scale, which obviously doesn't mean that doesn't mean that that's going to end up being right, but just in terms of the speculative view that we have of people's drafts, because I mean at the end of the day, everyone's grading these drafts, but we're not going to know for at least 2 years how all these picks do anyway. So they don't really mean anything at the minute, the grades. But I suppose that's all we can do as fans.
Did anyone talk about the Lions and I mean how well they did with Terry and Arnold? Like what a pick that was as well.
Yeah, Chapman covered them.
Yeah.
One thing with Terry and Arnold, when he was being interviewed live on stage, the reporter basically asked him, "What can you bring to a Detroit Lions team that is a Super Bowl contender?" And there was only one answer that he could give, and it says, "Win them a Super Bowl." Mindset, mentality, monster mentality. This guy has.
Of the weekend after your wide receiver, what was it? I make people stand up out of their wheelchairs. that he said in his press conference after being drafted.
I literally died. I died when I heard that. I was like, "Oh,
that's not real. That's a joke. Obviously, this is like a meme account on Twitter that I've seen this on, and I was like, oh my word, it is real." That's so funny. Fair play to him. Confidence, I suppose. Titans taking Sweat as well is a bad pick in my opinion. Really bad pick.
Yeah, Sweat.
Which one?
Tavondre Sweat. Is it Tavondre Sweat? Taking him at 30,
yeah.
When I mean, most people had him slip into the fourth, even fifth round. Obviously, the DUI that he had literally 2 weeks ago. All the concerns with his character. It was reported that he told teams that he suffers from alcohol problems and stuff like that. 38 to the Titans. And which was, that's viewed as another massive reach, I suppose you could say, in the thing, which I personally agree with, I suppose. I don't think, I wouldn't have personally taken him at 38, but...
I didn't really like Brock Bowers going to the Raiders either, like fit-wise.
Same.
I just don't get it. Like, I definitely thought he was going to go to the Colts. But, yeah.
Who, sorry? The Colts.
The Colts.
Oh right, I just
yeah. Do you know your favorite? Your second favorite team?
Oh right, the Colts. So, yeah, right, cool.
Yeah. Do you know the Colts? The Colts. Yeah. But yeah, I just didn't understand that pick because obviously they took Michael Mayer last year as the main tight end, and then they bring Brock Bowers in, and obviously he's a beast, but I feel like he would have been just better in a different offense. To be honest, I just didn't really understand.
I can only think of one reason why they took... Well, two reasons, actually, why they took Brock Bowers. One, because it was it was the best player on the board at the time. And secondly, I think they're trying to counteract to your Travis Kelce. They want their own version of Travis Kelce. But the thing is, Brock Bowers is a bit like Kelce in a way. He can't block. Very good at getting open, but can't block. That's the reason. But they had other needs. And the Raiders actually prioritise their running game very, very well. But Brock Bowers is not someone who actually blocks. You could have actually waited until the fourth, fifth round and took like Theo Johnson. That would have been a more logical pick if he was the Raiders. But I get where you're coming from.
Yeah,
I felt bad. I felt bad for Brock Bowers too. I just don't think that was a great landing spot, and I don't think that was a great fit for the team either. I think they just picked the best player on their board.
That franchise is the most tone-deaf franchise because if anybody saw their tweet, I can't remember what receiver it is that they took.
Yes.
But basically, they kept saying speed kills, and I'm like, are you serious? You know what's going on in your
the lack of self-awareness for that one was pretty low.
That's it's disgusting. I think one franchise does deserve props, even though our producer's going to give me daggers at this. It's the Chicago Bears. Obviously, they took Caleb Williams. They took Romeo Odunze. However, I will caveat by saying they absolutely reached for someone we weren't expecting. They reached for a punter in the fourth round. Tory Taylor out of Iowa. Yes, it's hard to consider any day three pick a true reach, but the Bears selecting a punter in the fourth round of a draft in which they had only 4 picks actually qualifies. So, yeah, that's a reach for a punter. That's something Belichick would do.
He's the punt god.
That is something Belichick would do.
He's the real punt god after Matt Araiza. Obviously, when you take any punter, obviously, people laugh at taking a punter in the fourth round. Well, I suppose they had the luxury of. I mean, their team is pretty They got a good defense. Obviously, that offense now is pretty insane. So they had a luxury of being able to take a punter in that position as well. They also got one of my favourite tackles in Kyron Amadeji. So I personally think they had quite a good draft. But I mean, as I said previously when we spoke about it, when you've got pick 1 and pick 9 in what a lot of people viewed as a generationally good offensive draft, you can't. It's quite hard to not walk away from that with a good draft.
And then did you hear about Caleb Williams then texting the punter to say, yeah, you won't need to be doing too much punting. So, oh my God, the balls on that guy. My God.
This is key. That's my boy.
Yeah, he has, but he's got to be very careful, for crying out loud. He really has.
So what did the Cowboys do?
Nothing.
Yeah, they didn't even draft the running back. Back.
They traded down. No, this was one of the worst. Okay, we thought the Bills trade was bad. The Cowboys, they actually traded down to just after the Buccaneers, so they could actually 29. Get their guard or 29 to actually take their guard or centre, only for the Buccaneers to actually steal them off them. And then they're sitting there going, "Oh, great! Now what?"
No, it was the great thing was, and then your draft show was talking about this. On Friday they do a little press conference before the draft starts again, and or was it at the end of Thursday, whatever. And Jerry Jones is sitting there with his son, and their personnel director, and he was like, "Oh, we really like this running back that they want to get." Like the next day they haven't drafted, and his son is like hitting him like, "Stop!" And the Panthers traded up and got him like right before. I forgot what running back it was. If anybody remembers. Anyway, he basically said what they wanted to do the next day, which is great. So.
The only player that I kind of not felt bad for, but I didn't know the real reason why he kept slipping down the picks was ADONAI Mitchell. He eventually did get drafted by the Colts, and fair dues on Chris Ballard, because he did an important video where he slammed all of the other GMs for not taking this player, because he said there was reports coming out saying that he was uncoachable and etc. But yeah, I thought he was I thought someone that Patriots might have gone for him instead of going for who did we get after in the second round?
Jalen Pope, wasn't it?
Yeah, Pope.
I
thought it was between Pope. I thought Mitchell would have been an option for us to grab it. Obviously we didn't, but that was the only kind of the guy that kind of slipped that I thought was slipping out down the draft.
Yeah, completely agree with you on that one.
Has the draft changed, in your opinion, guys, how people have been drafting? Because obviously, like, 14 offensive players go back-to-back, first time in the history. 6 quarterbacks go. Just in the last few years, our teams, analytics is obviously playing a big part for most teams, some teams. There is that too. I'll throw in, there's the consensus big board that one company creates that apparently is 85% correct or something the last 3 years. But again, I don't think that's a large enough sample size in terms of long-term player, value. But, are there any trends or any things you're seeing? I mean, I think for me, I think some teams are just going to value quarterbacks, getting a quarterback over and over again more than others. And I think, like mine, we do not want to be stuck without one, and we're making multiple very expensive bets on that. Anybody have any thoughts on that?
I think I see it two ways, right? So the first one, looking at it of how the draft panned out this year, we didn't see many trades in those top tier teams or the top, 15 or 16. I think as soon as the Bowers came off the board, the draft phones stopped. So I didn't think there was enough trades done this year. Then as soon as the second round hit, bang, there was a trade every single pick. Then going back to strategy wise, I think it's all down to what strategy you have on the board. You take the player that you need the most. You shouldn't really have to depend on or looking around what other players take. If you need a QB, you take a QB. If you need a running back, you take a running back. Obviously, this year wasn't a running back, high class running back core, but you look at the types like the Rams, the way that they drafted this year, I think they did really, really well. They they knew that DT was retired, so they've taken Verse and they took Frisk, and then they gone and got a running back, which they needed a running game. So I think it all boils down to strategy and what you need as a team base.
Yeah, I mean, I think as well, it's a copycat league in the end of the day, isn't it? So there's always, offense is the current trend. Offense is the way forward at the minute in the NFL. So, with all the way the rules that are going and things like that, and the way that the focus that we have on offensive football, that probably plays into why the first, 14 picks went as offensive players. So, I mean, I don't think so much that it's changed. I mean, it's more so, I think it just goes through that same kind of process. Like I said, it's more just some teams have their way of doing it, like the Patriots did for 20 years. They stuck to that way. That's how they did it. And, if teams get in that situation, they do it like that. But I think most teams just kind of play the copycat game and just kind of, trying to just go where the league is going and trying to follow them trends in where they draft.
I think there is a lot of groupthink in the NFL, more so than we want to let on. And because you see that in the media too. I thought it was really telling where, and again, I didn't expect going into this draft that the Falcons would come out being the lightning rod. I mean, I was just hoping for normalcy a little bit, and but I felt like the reaction to what we did was so negative, so hard, there was no and again, I get it. It was very controversial in theory, but look, a couple of years ago, we all remember San Francisco giving up 3 first-round picks for Trey Lance, a guy who barely played a full year of college and had not played in 2 years. And again, they're an organization that's a really good organization that he was a total bust. He's not even on the team there anymore, and they really lucked out. What if they had not gotten Purdy? Where would they be? I'm sure they'd figure out something else because they're a very, very, very smart organization, and I think Kyle Shanahan is possibly a genius. But it's interesting. It's
with Chapman, that was one of the worst offensive starts to a draft ever, wasn't it? With quarterbacks, with only one of the 4 is still on the team that was actually drafted by them, which is Trevor Lawrence. Every other player in of the top ones,
and even
obviously Fields.
Even Trevor Lawrence is, he was viewed as being the guy, the generational prospect since Andrew Luck, and I think all of us can agree he hasn't quite living up to that potential. I mean, don't get me wrong, he's not been anywhere near as bad as the other guys, and he has played well. I mean, he's led his team to the playoffs. What can you say? But I don't think he's quite lived up to those, the kind of generational billing that he got given, during his draft process.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, he was the deculated first pick as a freshman when he won the national championship. Everyone said that's the first pick in 2 years. So one of the most hyped prospects since Andrew Luck, I'm sure most people would agree with. So that draft class, I suppose, can be seen as quite. I mean, even Justin Fields. I mean, he's one of the highest recruited players in high school history. Even he was viewed as a very, very high pick, and we all know how that went. So yeah, not the best draft for the way that went, and who knows, maybe this draft ends up being the same. So that's the draft, isn't it? It's a crapshoot. At the end of the day, no one knows what is going to happen. We're all predicted on how we think they can translate to the NFL, but until we see it, we can't actually make any declarative statement on it. You know what I mean? Make a judgment on it.
Yeah, exactly. It's all just projection, isn't it? It's all just projection based on what is expected of these players, how they're going to perform at the next level. You don't know if someone's going to be successful or not. It's just as you say, a crapshoot.
Mm.
Yeah, it's interesting. Well, guys, do we have anything else you want to add tonight? Everybody's gotten their draft picks out, and hopefully their new players will be helping them in 2024. Guys, thanks so much for being here. This has been another episode. I'm excited to say next week we're going to have our very first guest on HUDDLE the Line. It's going to be Matt Cullen, a UK Jets fan. He runs the JTT Cup, and he's going to be coming and talking about, which is it's best ball. Yeah, it's best ball. I'm part of the league. I was last year, and he runs it for charity. He's got a great story. He started a couple of years ago, and I'm sure he's going to be excited to come on and tell us more about that. So we're looking forward to having Matt on. And everybody, we thank you so much for joining us. And we hope you'll hurdle that line with us next week when we're back next Wednesday. Thanks so much, and goodbye.